Good morning.
Good morning, Jane.
When I was telling the team about you in one of the meetings, the debrief meetings, and I was saying you're a celeb in the UK, an outdoor activist, and they were looking at me, slightly puzzled, and I said, and she posed naked under 750
and then
bottles.
all of a sudden,
they went, yes, we'll get in.
I'm not naked now, everybody.
Tell us the incentive of posing.
So I'm an ambassador for an association in the UK called Keep Britain Tidy, which, as you would suggest from the name, is all about being aware of litter and waste, which is a topic that you've been discussing today on your show. Plastic is a huge problem, as you've alluded to in your introduction there. We are literally drowning in a sea of plastic now. And basically what's happened is production has continued exponentially. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, plastic production, and we don't know what to do with the byproduct. So every bit of plastic that's ever been produced, half of that plastic becomes waste within 1 year of its life. To try and put it in context to people, 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic has been produced since the 1950s. And this is a National Geographic statistic, which has been named the statistic of the year. Only 9% of all of the plastic ever produced has been recycled. We just are not good at recycling and, as your other guest said, reusing and circular economizing plastic, and it's becoming this enormous polluting problem all over the globe, not just South Africa, not just the UK, everywhere that I've travelled to, places like Australia, far-ridden islands. It just is a massive problem that we do not know how to deal with properly. So I posed naked with a photographer friend of mine who I've worked with before called David Venny, and we thought, how can we make an impact? How can we get in the papers? How do we get people talking? And how do we get people to react the way your team did? And it was, you know, good old-fashioned, let's shock them. So that was it. So it was a very tastefully done photograph. I was lying on 750 plastic bottles, which is the number of bottles in England that get dumped every single minute. Now, 1 billion plastic bottles are produced in the world every single day. We just need to find a better way of dealing with plastic, and we need to stop the tap. We need to stop making virgin plastic.
It's that the tricky situation about how useful it is. And I know you've been travelling through South Africa as an ambassador for South Africa, and I'm just wondering what you saw in the rural areas compared to what's happening in the cities.
Yeah, I'm here travelling because I do a lot of travel shows based in the great outdoors and natural landscapes, and I'm here with a company called TUI, and they have something called the TUI Care Foundation, which puts money back into local communities, and we've just been in KwaZulu-Natal. And the rural areas are very impacted, of course. You can see there's no incentive, really, in those rural areas to pick up the plastic the way you were talking about in a lot of the urban areas, and something that's happening, I think, in your neighbourhood as well. So I think if the government can get behind some sort of incentive to get locals in rural areas to get some form of remuneration for their plastic. Plastic does have a value. It can be recycled, not infinitely. It can only be recycled a certain number of times. But of course, its core ingredient, the chemical, is petrol. So there is a value to it. And there are all sorts of wonderful inventions and innovations that are being created across the world where you can turn plastic waste into fuel. There are caterpillars now that they've worked out that can actually consume plastic. There are microbes that consume it. There are seaweed pouches. So there are lots of innovations, but those innovations need to be brought to the market, and they need money to do that, so we need incentives.
And as you were telling me earlier, you know, plastic is it's indicative of a bad state of mind, isn't it? Often of poverty. And I'm going to talk a little bit about outdoors. I know you advocate that as well.
Yeah.
And the link between outdoors and mental health.
So, as you've quite rightly said, it's not just plastic waste. Litter is indicative of a disadvantaged society. It's the first sign that things are going wrong within a community. And also, litter harbours bacteria and disease, so that's why litter is a bad thing. The outdoors and keeping the outdoors pristine, and that's what I make programmes about, beautiful locations all around the world. It's incredibly important to all of us. Look at what's happening in the Amazon right now. We are connected to the Amazon, whether you like to think of it or not. We are. The Amazon is one of the lungs of the planet, sucking up the pollution that we're creating. Trees are valuable. We are all connected. So every little patch of grass, every mountain is valuable to us as a resource. And in terms of our mental health, and I know the UK, 1 in 4 people in the UK will suffer from a mental health issue within their lifetime. And I know mental health is a big issue here in South Africa as well. It has been proven, more research out by the University of Exeter just this month in the UK, which is a primary source of this kind of information, that just 120 minutes spent out outdoors in green spaces, that can be a local park or somewhere like a forest, every week, that can have a profoundly good impact on your mental health, your attitude, your physical health, your emotional well-being. So all of these things are linked, and I think that's what we're seeing in the globe today, is that everything is connected and we must care about everyone and everything.
And how do we start? Give us some tips.
So top tips for us at home, what you can do. Reusable bags are a no-brainer, and I know you guys are good at that here in South Africa. Get yourself a reusable cup as well. Try not to buy plastic bottles, your water bottles. Try and take refill bottles with you. Cling wrap, plastic wrap that you put your food in, that's bad. A lot of it is single-use. People don't think to wash it, but you can. But better still, use an alternative. Use a reusable Tupperware or glass Pyrex bowl. There are just so many things that we can all do. Say no to straws and be active in your community. If you've got a cafe that you like going to, but it serves you your drink in plastic straws, say no, we don't want the straws, thank you, and petition a little bit. Get a bit noisy. We all have to get a bit noisy about this issue.
Julia Bradbury, thank you.
Thanks, Jane Dutton.